what's it been like when you're covering any athlete, and especially with Aaron Rodgers, where it's not really what he does, it's what he says now. And so what's that been like, the coverage? Because when you're in the media, and especially in NFL, we're obsessed with the X's and O's, and then you are introduced the pop culture element to it.
Yeah.
But for him, he's always been obsessed with conspiracy theories. I think that's important to mention because
Yeah.
he was obsessed with the JFK assassination, just like the rest of the world was. But now that since COVID hit, he kind of like enhanced this a little bit.
Yeah.
What's it been like introducing that factor into the Aaron Rodgers quarterback?
You know, for me, it never, I can't be completely objective about it because I don't know for sure how, like, there's implicit biases in everything, right? Like we don't always know how the biases affect our ability to reason with something in a meaningful way. But I will say, I always liked Aaron Rodgers, the guy, fine, in 2014 through 2020, whatever. Like the guy before that, like he was always easy to root for to me. And I appreciated the transparency. He was always he was hard to read in a way, like this inscrutable superstar. You know, I'll never forget the anecdote from Mina Kimes profiling him on ESPN, the magazine. She sits down at his place, puts her phone down. He puts his phone down as if to say, I'm going to be recording this too, just so nothing gets taken out of context.
Wow.
That was how he was. And that changed with COVID. You mentioned it. And I think what really changed about covering him was it became impossible to criticize him without it being drawn back to his COVID stance. It became impossible to say that was just as something simple as that was a bad throw, or that was a bad decision, or that was bad body language, and not have someone say, you just don't like him because he wouldn't get the jab. It became so political. And by the way, he leaned into that and has said that.
And never denied it either.
But he's also said on the record, the only thing anyone can say about me is this, they don't like this. And that's why people criticize me. It's the only reason people criticize me, which is just objectively not true. Like the only people still talking about the COVID vaccine and his stance on the COVID vaccine is Aaron Rodgers. No one cares in Packers media, in Packers fandom, except the people who see it as a chance to put him on the cross and martyr him over it. I don't care, Jess. I have like, when it happened, it was one thing. And what I cared about was that he lied about it.
Yeah.
And you know, I thought Ian O'Connor, who wrote this great book on Aaron Rodgers, in his conversation with Rodgers, told him, and he was on Locked On Packers, shameless plug if you want to go listen to it. You know, if I had been in that room, this is Ian speaking, I don't think if you'd have told the truth, I don't think I would have written a column killing you for it. But everyone killed him for it when we found out he had COVID and lied about getting the vaccine. Now he has a reason that he claims for being less than forthcoming, let's say, about it. Your mileage can vary on that. Like I don't really need to delve into it, but it did change the way that he was covered, because I think he changed. He started to make this adversarial relationship with the media, which was leaned into on Pat McAfee's show, because they're the pirate ship. They're the interlopers too. And so they like to take shots. Everyone else is doing you a disservice by not covering the sport the way we do, which, by the way, everyone does. Everyone says that, because now with the crowded media landscape, like I do it on Locked On Packers, I was like, they're not telling you, like big media is not giving you all the information that you need, not in a conspiratorial way, just in sort of like, I have to justify my existence. I have to explain to our audience why you should listen to me and not the people on ESPN.
And that's more of like a regional beat reporting versus national. Yeah.
And Pat McAfee and their show, which, by the way, I like Pat and Ty, and I think those guys are really good at what they do. And Ty's a Packer fan, of course. So, you know, got to support my guy on that. But, you know, they have to create that. That's why it's so funny, I think, to me, that they're a part of ESPN, because they're part of the machine now. And they have been able to keep their distance a little bit and keep that edge, which I think is cool. But it fed into Aaron Rodgers, you know, presuppositions about the media and the way that he's treated it. And so he used it as a hobby horse to go on and, you know, say this and say that. And I think, frankly, to his detriment, Like, it has been so easy when he goes on to McAfee and says, we want to keep the bullshit out of, all that stuff that's not about winning. Let's keep it out of the locker room. And then he goes to Egypt instead of going to mandatory minicamp. And it's just sort of like, okay, Aaron, like, if you hadn't been on the show, it would have been easier to just say, well, he had this thing and whatever, but he didn't. So now you can bring back this thing he said. So sometimes it's sort of like he's his own worst enemy with some of this stuff, because now he's so vocal. It's like, Aaron, this is why in 2014 you didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So,
and it's kind of interesting to watch him react to what he's been doing too, like to be the quiet guy, which I think most people want to go through, but you see that like later on in their career. Like, I used to talk and now I'm done, and now it's the opposite. Maybe he'll go back in and not talk so much.